really define why it is that you are searching out this partnership. Is it a financial gain? Is it you want someone else to do the business side of things?
Oh,
What is the partnership, right?
all right, we are live, everybody. How's it going, Andy?
I am doing pretty good.
Good. This is the Make Trades Great Again podcast, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching over on YouTube. And while we're at it, we'll do the little housekeeping thing. Hit us up in the DMs over on Instagram or send us a message. You can click a link in the app that you're listening to us on. There's a little text us link, and you can send us messages. We can't text you back. So, it's a one-way thing. You got some feedback, we want to hear it.
That's what we got.
All right. Andy, we got some listener questions today. I love this. This is my favorite kind of episode.
A little mail call action. We got got an email from Jed Kraft.
Jed.
So thank you for following the instructions, Jed, and sending us this. He was great by doing the MTGA right at the top of it, so it filters out all of the emails of people who think that their Bitcoin farming guy from South Africa would be a great podcast guest.
Speaking of that, I had one of those guys call me the other day and I answered.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you email me constantly. Why are you calling me?
Right.
Oh, man.
Like an Arabian prince? Like you've...
No, it was this
like
guy. No, but it just feel like I ignored your emails.
Yeah, clearly.
Anyway, sorry.
That's right.
They don't listen to this pod. They just go on the podcast apps.
Yeah.
And they must use AI or something to pull
the transcript,
keywords and transcripts and stuff from them, because they don't have any idea. They got no clue. They got no clue.
They're just selling a slot.
They copy and paste a couple lines out of the transcript into hey, we listened to this episode and it sounds great because, and then it's our words, and then they go back into their form email. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We see through you.
Yeah.
Folks. Anyway, okay, listener question from Jed. He emailed this in. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. So anyway, Jed, 27-year-old plumbing heating contractor, California. Just starting out in business, listening to the podcast. Good choice. Solid move.
Our target marketing is working.
That's right. He had a couple of questions, couple of topic ideas. And so we're going to pick two of these here for this morning. First one was pros and cons of partnerships in business versus independent operation. And
well, wait a minute. I like what you're doing, but can I make a request?
Yeah.
Can you read his email? Because it was pretty good. And I just thought, although we're only going to talk, we only have time to talk about a couple parts of it, like you said.
Yep.
I think it's cool to hear the email.
Okay.
And then give us because it'll give us a little look into the future, because we're going to have to cover all of it eventually.
Okay. Can do.
Sorry. Thank you.
That's right. So he goes on. I am a 27-year-old radiant heating plumbing contractor in California. Just starting out my business, with my own business. I love the podcast. It's great and very relatable.
Oh, see, this is why I wanted you.
This is why you just needed to be inflated a little this morning. I particularly enjoy when you both discuss technical issues and when you're willing to dive into specific product strengths and shortcomings. You heard it here on the MTGA. So, if you're interested, I would love to hear discussions about van layout, what works well. Each of your van layouts and what you would do differently, pros and cons of partnerships in a business versus independently operating, marketing during a recession or slowdown, and when just starting out, and do you always change PVC venting to polypropylene even if PVC is existing? P.S. I'd also love to see on YouTube more job walkthroughs. Okay. Thanks, Jed.
Okay, so we're gonna cherry pick a couple things out of here.
Yeah.
Which were the partnership question and then the marketing.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to cover today. Okay.
Yep.
We're only 4.5 minutes into this podcast by the time we told you what we're going to talk about. No, thank you for reading it. Like, look, he took time to write it in, and it's probably not the only time we're going to read that email on the air, because there's some really great questions in there. So thanks, Jed. Let's go with partnership.
Okay.
So I own a business that I'm partners with, John Mesenbrink. He and Tim Ward, they do the Appetite for Construction podcast. If you haven't heard that, listen to it. Great guys. You've heard us talk about it in the past, but Appetite for Construction, cool podcast where John and Tim interview people throughout the trades, industry, businesses, someone related to the trades mostly.
Yep. Okay. It's different than what we do. So if you are interested in hearing a different side of the industry where you generally aren't going to hear these people talk, it's I guess I find that it's
in other places.
It's a different light that you hear industry professionals talking in.
Yeah.
And in most commonly industry professionals being on the manufacturing side.
Yeah, it is common that they're talking with somebody from, let's say, Uponor, or from Viga or Rigid or
the ICC Trades Council.
They just had the guy, what's his name? His name Dave. I can't think. The guy from Medea was on just recently. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm sorry. A good Medea is technically the name of the company, but you know what we're saying. We're saying Medea.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Partnership. What are the pros and cons? What are the things you think about when you hear the word partnership and you think about business, Andy?
So I feel like in partnership, when I hear that word, I feel like it opens the door, and I'm trying to think how I said it here earlier. I guess now it's like all of a sudden convoluted. I think, being in a partnership means that you have to be willing to accept someone else's point of view in the day-to-day operations. If your partnership, I guess, involves you and someone else or some other entity managing and operating your business, then you have to be open to someone else helping make those decisions, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100% makes sense. And it's probably one of the biggest, I don't think there's really, it seems like it's one of the most poignant things to bring up right away, right off the bat. Like, honestly, it is true. So like it can be hard to have partners. It can be difficult. Mm-hmm. Look, you don't go into something blind. You know this person enough to know, like, do I want to do business with them? Right. Partnerships and friendships, they have to there has to be kind of a friendship element to it, in my opinion.
Yep.
But then people will tell you, like, don't go into partners with your friends and family. Well, that's the problem. You have to be at least friends. You have to. If you're not, there's going to be times at which your business is going to suffer. It can also get in the way. So that's where I was going to go with this. Like, it can also make making hard decisions a little harder. If you know somebody well enough and you're apprehensive to hurt their feelings because you're going to make a statement that they're not going to like, but it's needed for your business, whatever. Yeah. Partnership is tough because of that, like the personal side of things. Now, it's also tough when you have, if you have certain partners doing things where their strengths aren't matched up to the task. Maybe it's not their, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. And if you have somebody trying to do something that they're not really great at, and it might, your business might suffer in one way or another, maybe not long term, maybe not drastically, but it could, the outcome might have been different if you had the other person with the strength in that area working on it. So like, you have to divvy up tasks. You have to divvy up really the responsibilities. You do have to have agreements in place. John and I definitely have a contract.
Yep.
That says how, who makes ultimately the final decision on something. We have in our contract states how decisions are made if we need to get to that point where we can't work together and be like, hey, this is what the contract says. This is how we're supposed to do it. Those things are important. And that's such a silly little, barely even touching on what our contract says, but it says a lot of things.
Sure.
But that's super, super important.
Well, and that's, I think that's probably where where a lot of partnerships struggle or fail because when there's a disagreement, who's in charge, right? Who's going to ultimately make that decision? How does the business move forward when we don't agree? And I think that's always, I've never been in a partnership with someone outside of my wife, right?
Yeah.
And for me to say I'm not in a partnership in Mickelson Plumbing and Heating, and that my wife is not my partner, I would be lying, because we absolutely are. And we don't have in place a document like that.
No,
because I guess it's not really necessary, but it's
I mean, maybe one day if you have 20 people working for you, and so you start to expand, you start looking at that and you go, hey, you know what, we probably should have all of this just down in writing so that if you need to reference it.
Right.
And so if I need to be told what I'm doing wrong, it's been written down and we've both signed it. No, you're right. But it is important. So like most people aren't looking at partnerships with their spouse the same as they are like just, hey, you and I, we're kind of partners in this podcast, right?
Sure.
Like, sure. But it's bigger than that because this is part of Mechanical Hub and everything. Like, we earn money. So it is a business, but like, it's a little bit different.
Yep.
I look at it as like we are partners, and that any decision we make moving, that helps this podcast move one way or another, decisions be made. It's always been you and I equally to make those decisions.
Yep.
Little less on the line than than what I'm talking about with like John and I owning Mechanical Hub Media, right? Like,
right.
A little less, obviously the decisions we make with the podcast are paramount and tantamount to our success as human beings on this earth. The rest of the business, whatever is what it is.
That's right.
No, the big thing for me when I talk partnership, I already brought up that like it's the contract, it's planning it out, having a clear understanding on how decisions are going to be made.
Yep.
Ownership, like literally, like should it be 50-50? Should one be slightly more than the other? That kind of thing. You have to really think this stuff through. Attorneys help you put this together. I'm sure people these days are going to go straight to ChatGPT to start. But it is a legal document that you'd want to be able to rely on, the both of you, to protect each of your, to protect yourselves.
Yep. Because
this isn't like a us versus them scenario. You very much need to be looking out for each other and for your own best interest, at the same time. I mean, you could get into horror stories about partners. People could come on the podcast and be like, oh man, don't do it. And this is the worst thing ever. And look, when I hear people talk like that, I go, yeah, it sounds like your partnership really was bad. Right. And I can see why you would tell people don't do a partnership. But I can tell you from experience that after 12 years of being, partners with John, like, has it been perfect all the time? Heck no. Yeah. There's times where we want to wring each other's necks collectively. Right. Like I should wring my own half the time. You know what I mean?
But that's the beauty of business and partnership, is that you have to be able to look at it and go, okay, well, we disagree here. We A, found a solution, and B, we figured out how we're going to move forward so that we don't have to disagree about these kinds of things in the future.
Yeah.
And if you can't move forward and you're at a stalemate, then that's the partnership is dead. Right.
I totally agree. And a good partnership is going to be, there are going to be disagreements because people will have different backgrounds to bring to the discussion at hand, that specific moment in time, the things you're dealing with as time moves on in your business and as your business changes and grows. And you might not, both of you might not, you might both be lacking the experience you need in certain times too. That's the way it goes. But personalities come into play then, right?
Right.
Where somebody might be more pragmatic, take a slower approach to make a decision, want to weigh all the benefits, consequences, all the things that go along with that.
Yeah.
And you might also be like me and be very fast thinking on your feet and go, you know what, I'm going to go with my gut on this, and this is what we got to do. And so what I basically just described is John and I. He's pragmatic. He wants to take it all in. Not that I don't try to survey the situation, but I will be more apt to make a quicker decision because I'm used to making decisions when they have to be made, like right now, right? Like, I got to solve this problem that we just uncovered, kind of thing. And because of my background, right? Being plumbing, heating, and so that's a strength that we both bring. He's pragmatic, can make, informed decisions when we need to, and I can too, but I'm also willing to go, hey, this is what we're going to do right now. Consequence is it's not going to kill us, and let's just, we kind of deal with this as it goes, kind of thing. Right. And having that dynamic where you have two different people, two different backgrounds, two different approaches to problems, can make, making decisions, maybe they take a little longer than you want. Maybe you don't love that as your personality dealing with somebody else, but I can tell you it's beneficial oftentimes.
Right.
Just like you and I. I mean, we're very different in our personalities and stuff, but like, I think that's what makes the show work.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Partnership. You got to figure it out, and you got to, I mean, this is not an in-depth conversation on that topic, right?
No.
It's just like, look, no, I do it, and I can tell you straight out, if you're going to do it, you have to have an agreement in place.
I would also ask you to really define why it is that you are searching out this partnership. Is it a financial gain? Is it you want someone else to do the business side of things? Oh. What is the partnership, right? Is, and in Jed's case, and we don't know Jed, young guy, he may be at that point in his career where he's like, I really like working with the tools, and I just want to go out and work with the tools, and I want somebody to run my business. Right. And in that case, you have to look at that and go, well, I'm hiring or I'm entertaining this partnership with this individual who has business operations experience and is good at running a business. You need to let them run the business if that's what you want is in success. I'm not saying step out of it, be involved in the decisions, but you absolutely have to figure out where your lane is at and where their lane is at.
Yeah. Great point.
If you're doing different things. So just some food for thought, really just identify why.
You got it. I love it. Jed's comment in his email. Yep. He said something about marketing. What did he say about that? You got that up on your screen still?
Marketing during a recession or slowdown, or just when starting out.
Ooh, marketing. Just marketing in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically kind of the first like full-time, really serious about the business for Ani Plumbing. We started back in 2004, according to the coffee cup I'm drinking out of right now. And we did technically start in 2004. And then the economy changed shortly after that, 3.5 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that little snafu they even called a depression.
Yeah.
I've been through it. You've been through it. Yep. You've seen some changes in the economy over time, although you started just slightly after all of that, but not too long after. And so you were working in the trades, obviously, when it happened. How do you market when you're starting out? It's different today than it was when you and I started, but I can tell you one thing that's still present and works really well. If you have somebody to handle it, if you have a way to get on top of it, either you hire somebody to do it or you have somebody in-house doing the management of social media. Yep. Social media is a great way to market. It really is. You can pay money. You can not pay money. Look, you can invite people to like your page, and hopefully you show up in their feed and you offer them some type of value. That's the real thing that you have to offer, in my opinion, when you look at marketing and you're talking about social media. I'm a plumbing company. I offer these services. That's great. You're one of, like, I swear to God, in my town, Andy, I'm just finding out more and more. I just drive around in the mini truck sometimes through these neighborhoods, and there is, like, I think everybody in my town's a plumber.
Yeah. Like,
they work for a plumber. You know what I mean? It's insane how many plumbing trucks are out and vans are out in the driveways. Like, it's incredible. Go out on a Sunday evening in the mini truck, drive around a neighborhood. any one of them, and they're there. So they don't need to know you're like they're not looking for a plumber in a sense, right? Like they're on social media. But if you can offer them some kind of like little incentive, like, hey, it's fall, and don't forget you live somewhere where water freezes in the wintertime, and shut your faucets off. You give them real information that could be useful. It doesn't seem like it's all that important, but you get in front of people in a big way that a lot of businesses are paying a lot of money to do that, and it can be very effective. The other kind of marketing thing too, I think, as it pertains to social media, and I'm just going to talk about social media just for another minute or two, and marketing, is these neighborhood groups, the bulletin boards and things like that. Like, it's a powerful referral system. I don't participate super heavily in it, although I think that's going to change a little bit. I've got some plans in place. I think we're going to change that a little bit because I see my competition being recommended all the time. And who's recommending them?
Right.
They're past customers, and they're giving them incentives and things like that to do that. And so there's a lot of ways to get out there and say, hey, to your existing customers as you're leaving, saying, hey, give you $25, refer my business on Facebook. If somebody says that you referred me, I'll send you $25, or I'll give you a $25 off coupon next time we see you, that kind of thing. People are doing that kind of stuff. And it's effective. It really is, because you're not listening to the MTGA podcast, or you're not watching us on YouTube, obviously then the rest of your time is spent on social media. It's one or the other. I get it. You get it. Nobody's watching Netflix anymore. Everybody's just listening or watching this podcast. Like,
that's right.
Look, like
binge watching.
You got to go. YouTube. Yeah. You got to go where your people are at.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I agree with all of those points. I mean, I look at, a couple of things, in that question, I guess. One, in a recession, right? So once as a business owner, you've decided that you've determined that you are involved in that recession, right? It's impacting you, which at the moment it's probably impacting just about everybody.
Yep.
You really should be looking at what is the best bang for my buck, right? Like, how do I get the most leads, the most, in-person visits, the most bills paid with the least amount of spend? And probably the easiest way, like you just said, is, referrals. The second one that comes to mind to me that's, top on our list is Google reviews.
Yeah.
Right. Ask for the review, right? You go do a good job. You're proud of that work. Make that ask. A lot of people are willing to say, yeah, no, I'll give you a review. And, our software does it for us.
Right.
It's insane. I think we've talked about this before. We had like 13 Google reviews, I think, when we started with House Call Pro, 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're almost 500 now.
That's crazy.
And it's an insane number. And I mean, that's the first 12 or 13 years in business, 12 years in business. We had 12 or 13 reviews, and then and I just never asked for them before. It's not that people wouldn't give them to me, but I never asked for it. I never put the link out in front of them.
Well, so they're automatically sending the request for the review, but I've also found out too, a couple things. Look, you're not guaranteed to get that review from the customer.
Not at all.
You're just not. Good, bad, indifferent. They're not guaranteed. People are busy and they don't always take the time to do it. Couple things. I found out that if you bring it up ahead of time and tell them when I hit pay, when I hit done on this, you're going to get a request to get a review on Google. Please, I tell them this, and I say, hey, it helps me out so much if you give me a review. I really do appreciate it. Say whatever you want. That's what I say. And then I don't go on and on. It takes me like 10 or less seconds to say that. And I noticed that if I bring it up, it seems like I'm more likely to get the review.
Yeah, funny how that works.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't bring it up, they're going to get the request anyway. And they will, people do click on it and take the time. And I'm so appreciative. I don't have 500 of them. I need to work a little harder on it. But also the saying it, I think they see it and they go, oh yeah, that's right, he wants me to give me a review.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wish that the Google review didn't require a Gmail address.
That was the other thing I was going to bring up, but I didn't want it to sound like I was complaining. I guess it's kind of a house call thing, right? Well, it's a Google thing regardless. We choose to have our reviews put on Google for obvious reasons. I mean, because there's other places you can have reviews.
Sure.
You can just have them on your website, House Call Pro, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want it on Google, and everybody wants it on Google. And I do have a couple customers who are, by all accounts, judging on what they say to me, very enthusiastically pleased with the service I've provided them over the years.
Yep.
And yet I have been told by a couple of them, well, I don't do Google. I don't have a Gmail. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so they can't leave a review. It's a bummer. It's a real bummer. I wish, then I always like, hey, you gotta, just ask your daughter.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that's my directive, starting out with marketing is like, you need to spend money doing it as well. Because if you don't have customers calling at all, then you're not going to get any reviews. So you've got to drive those phone calls in the beginning. That's a little more difficult, and I think you're the big thing to be looking at there is that you can, one of the early on things that we did that I think was fairly successful. We didn't have great numbers from the campaign, but we did the shopping carts. Like the advertising on a shopping cart.
Yeah.
You get that at the grocery store where you look inside the grocery. There's a little billboard thing inside there.
It's hard to track that stuff.
It's hard to track, right? This has been a long time ago. It's probably been 10 years since we've done one. We did, and they were probably $1,800 a quarter, $2,000 a quarter. I mean, it was not inexpensive, and it was a hard thing to choke. But they were like, well, we're going to do it in all of the neighborhoods and all of the city. And I was like, okay, well, actually, let's not. Let's go to this side of the neighborhood where we have a lot of older homes in a pretty nice portion of town. And I want to spend everything in that neighborhood.
I only want to work for rich people in nice houses.
Well, I want to work in the neighborhood with the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I hear you. That kind of stuff's hard to track though. It really is. Like
it is. But what I noticed from it is even though I wasn't tracking the numbers on the marketing campaign, if I went back and pulled a report, which it's way easier to do now with modern software than it was then. If I went back and pulled a report of pre that campaign and after, I know for a fact we did way more work in that neighborhood in the year after.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right. And a lot of that's, people didn't call the phone number that was on the banner, but they saw the logo, they saw the information, and then they looked me up another way. And so that's how I feel like that marketing numbers, they don't generally work that. I shouldn't say they don't work that well, because that's my take of it. But those types of marketing campaigns commonly, and I to this day remember being irritated when we did that campaign, and I called the guy right out of the first time I saw that shopping cart that had my company logo on it. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's so cool. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wait, there's a typo. That's not my phone number.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, what the heck? That's not my phone number. So I call the phone number, and it rings my phone. And I'm like, what the heck? They'll use a forwarding number.
Oh.
Well, so here comes the dilemma, right? If you don't continue marketing with that company, that phone number now is dead.
Okay.
It's a dead link. Now, does it go to, the next time they go to do a marketing campaign, does it go to the next plumber that's there? No, probably not. But it may not go to your business. It may go dormant for 6 months
so
or
it's something you
something.
need to know and upfront discuss with this company and verify that either they do it this way or they don't. And you got to see if what's going to work for you is what you're saying.
Right. Well, and so the only way that they can track the number of calls that banner generates is they have to have some way to basically log that. And so that they use a marketing number, and then they can track how many times that marketing number was called and it was forwarded to you and you answered the call.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Google's doing that now with your listing and everything. You get their report at the end of the month saying this is how many people saw your listing. This is how many people clicked on it, how many people called, that kind of thing. Excuse me. That's pretty good information too. Yep. Yeah. The last thing I'll go with the marketing. These are just easier things, right? Like what you're saying, you could do like the shopping cart. There's lots of variations of that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know how many times I sat in a local restaurant, local Mexican joint, a local burger joint, whatever. And you look up and they got the TVs.
Yeah.
And they're either showing like some hockey game, football, basketball, or one of them in the corner is just on total rotation, continuous of like their static, typically static images of ads for businesses local.
Yep.
Buy into those, look into them. And here's why I say that. I look at it every single time, and I have actually called a painter off of one recently because look, sometimes when you don't know, like I didn't know any painters.
Right.
So I'm calling my realtor buddy and I'm calling this and that. And he's like, yeah, I got a guy, but I'm not going to give you his number. He's a drunk. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm still at square one and I got to start with Google, but it's just easy, to look up and see that. And it's effective. People act on that, put a QR code on it. So people, in between bites of their fajitas, they can QR code your business and get you right onto Google, right? Like, that's a way to do it if it fits in your budget. It's going to cost you money, but they're going to put you in a bunch of different spots that, obviously it's got to be a good fit for you. You don't want these things going up 35 miles from your business. You want them in your backyard, but it's a way to do it. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and we can wrap this up. We're getting a little longer than we wanted to, but something I think is invaluable for your business is getting involved in your community. And I've done it. You've done it. Like, look, you don't have to go out there and, virtue signal everybody and be like, we're the best plumbing company in the world because we worked at the food shelf. But guess what? Working at the food shelf really helps your community, and it'll pay back. It'll pay. You don't go out there and advertise. Wear your T-shirt, man. Wear the T-shirt. Wear the hat. Tell people you're a plumber, a contractor in your community. Tell them that. That's totally fine. But do it because, it may be a good opportunity to get your name out there in a very useful way, by being useful in your community and contributing, because that can be very rewarding on a personal level too. If you've got employees, getting them out there, not forcing them, but maybe you pay your employees to volunteer. A lot of companies do that.
Yeah.
Look, it's not out of the question for a small company either. It's a couple hours, pay them, get them out there. It's good for your business. It's good for the community. That might be one way to look at marketing differently. Right.
Yeah.
So think about that too. I think it's just, I bring up in a sound enthusiastic. I brought it up recently with Heather. I'm like, we need to get back to volunteering because we used to do it all the time.
Yep.
And then we just kind of got away from it because you think you're too busy and you don't got time. Your community needs you, and it can be an opportunity in a way. I mean, it's not a direct marketing strategy,
but people see it.
People see it. Pull up in your van with the name all over it.
Yep.
Well, the van. Look. Real quick. Okay, I already said that. That isn't the last thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say one more thing. When I ran my business for 10 years before I wrapped the van, like totally redesigned and went with a different presentation on the vehicle. And we've talked about this in the past. You don't have wrapped vans and you're doing great. I'm going to tell you what, you put more on the vehicle make it look good, have it professionally designed. That's the key, in my opinion. And you can make a huge change in just how you are seen in your community, or if you're seen at all in some cases, right? And so that's one thing. Look at your vehicle marketing. Like this is a great time. It costs money, yes, but it's a good investment if you're doing it right. You're dealing with professionals that make the suggestions you're not already thinking of on how to, like, what if you did, this is what we think you should do. This is how your van could look. This is how your trucks could look. This is how you could present yourself in the community. And it can be super, super, super powerful and impactful. And it's not temporary. It's from, until you choose to change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something. Sorry. I'm all over the place.
You're fine.
Partnership and marketing.
Partnership and marketing. I mean, I think we hit on a few of those. Jed, if you're looking in that marketing thing, if you look back at I don't know the episode right off the top of my head, but there's been a handful of times over the last 300 episodes that we've gone into depth on marketing topics and things like that. It's been successful for us. I'd encourage you to go back and find a couple of those, and anybody else that's out there. I mean, worst case scenario is it sparks a little thought of, I could do that, right? I could search this avenue out. I could try this. You don't have to commit to a freaking 2-year contract for the Yellow Pages at $25,000 a month.
Yellow Pages.
Sorry, Yellow Pages.
No, why would you apologize to the Yellow Pages?
I don't. No apology needed or given.
They definitely listen to this podcast because they got nothing else to do.
So anyway, that's good. That's good.
Okay. All right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Jed, thanks for writing that in. We definitely appreciate it. And as Eric mentioned earlier, we're probably going to cherry pick a few more items out of there. That was a great message. We definitely appreciate those. So anybody else that's listening, if you got more stuff kind of like in line with, what Jed's asking, if you got questions about business, questions about materials, I don't know. I mean, we'll dig into it. Shoot us a message. Worst case scenario, we'll go, I don't know anything about that. There's a lot of things I don't know about, but I don't know.
Yeah, the list is longer than things I do know. All right. Take it easy, brother.
All right. Later.